welcome to David Francey and Mark Westbrook.
Thank you very much, Gary. My goodness. I've actually decided to hire Gary on to introduce me everywhere I go. That was lovely, man. That was really lovely. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's very nice to see you as well. We were just hellishly lonely with just Gary and Ken there. So lovely to be back in Montrose. Lovely to be anywhere. We've left home at I guess halfway through August, and I'm going to be home for 4 days at the end of this month. So and then back out again. So we're very happy to be here again. It showed up in the calendar. We're very happy indeed. So thank you for making the trip, and I'm glad we did. That's for sure. We were over in the Iron Islands, and it was lovely, and we took the ferry back, and I know Mark and I left some of our heart there and all of our lunch there, and it was just brutal. So we're glad to be on terra firma. Right, this song is probably my favorite song that I've written anyway, and it's about the first job I ever had. The first job I had was delivering the Daily Record in the village of Comores, that was alluded to earlier. And People's Friend on Wednesday. And I read that paper cover to cover when I was 10 years old. My grandmother's house, I'd be having my breakfast, reading the paper, and every morning I read about mass murder and assassinations and the fall of the empire every single morning at 10 years old. And I think to myself when I was shoveling in the cornflakes, I'll never see 12, I'll never see 12. I saw 12, and multiples off, and I've got a huge multiple coming up in a couple of months that I'm just going to ignore it completely. This song is called Paperboy. If you got a little bit of the chorus, you want to sing with us, that'd be great to have you. Thank you. Down to the agent shop I'd go, I'd show them my bag on the open road. Past the cows' houses, row and row. When I was a paper boy, and with the Daily Record and the People's Friend, I'd go down to the sunny side again, under the bridge where the railway bends. When I was a paper boy, and my feet flew in the morning light, racing the dawn as the sky grew bright. Oh, and everything in the world was right when I was a paper boy. I'd walk the morning in the empty streets, would ring with the sound of my own 2 feet, and I'd walk in step to my own heartbeat when I was a paper boy. As the rain rolled down the back of my neck, I delivered the news of death and sex. Wrote Visa Spec and Malcolm X. When I was a paper boy, and there's a crow in a treetop way up high, hung as a warning, left to die. And a morning wind in the morning sky. When I was a paper boy. Very much. I've got a little thing in my throat, so I'm drinking a lot of water today. Got an old beer, sadly. Gary, does it sound okay? Do you need to bump anything up? It's all right? Okay, cool.
Everybody can hear everything?
I'd like to introduce the band. That's Mark. That's Mark. I've known Mark since the very first album, like all that time ago. I think he must have been 12 when I met him, really, but we've been musical friends ever since. The last album we did was one we did together, and that was a really great time, and we just started on another one now. So, but anyway, that's Mark Westberg, and he's going to supply all the really great music tonight. This next song is I don't even know. I think it's called Waking Hour. Actually, it is. Waking Hour. It's a song from my wife, Beth. And unless I have an affair between now and the end of the show, so they're all going to be about Beth, quite frankly. She's the reason I'm standing here at Kenna's side and Gary's side, as lovely as they are. She's the one that got me into this line of work. And but maybe eight years into our marriage, I thought we were kind of drifting apart. I really did. I thought those little incremental drifts were just getting bigger and bigger and not paying enough attention to one another. So I thought, you know, geez, I don't know what to do about that. And I didn't know what to do about it. So I did nothing. I just sat there and waited for something to come along, like this song. And so after I finished this song, I felt immediately better. So after you hear it, don't worry about it. We're doing just fine. Thank you very much. It's a love song, but it's by far the most obscure love song I've ever written. And it's called The Waking Hour. And again, if you want to join in the chorus, you're more than welcome to it. I wake to the radio morning news, just as the day is dawning, and I watch from the window while passing cloud dulls the hopeful morning, and I wonder will the girl I love come back with the morning, but the old crow at the waking hour has given me fair warning, and the heart that's breaking never makes a sound, and the heart that's breaking never makes a sound. She was once my heart's delight, my need and my desire. She was my day, she was my night, my water and my fire. Oh, and I was once the same to her, when we still walked together. But the heavy heart at the waking hour is expecting heavy weather, and the heart that's breaking never makes a sound, and the heart that's breaking never makes a sound. I know love, I've seen love's face, and I understand its sorrow. For every love I've ever had has always meant tomorrow. Though I'm Wednesday's child, I try not to be ungrateful, but I was born a midnight black, with a heart that can be hateful, and the heart that's breaking never makes a sound, and the heart that's breaking never makes a sound. Oh, and the heart that's breaking never makes a sound. I'm a big fan of op shops. Every time I go to somewhere, I go to the op shops. I went here, it's the best town in the world for op shops. It was really nice. I went into the last one, and the woman says to me what the price of the shirt was, and I'm digging through my pocket for change, you know. And finally, I said, I don't have enough. And she says, well, you better start singing again. Right out of the blue. I couldn't believe it. I said, oh, thanks. You know, I felt really good. This song's about the internet. It's a pretty huge subject, I understand that, but it just sort of struck me how huge it was, and how sometimes it could be used for good, and sometimes it could be used for evil, essentially. And for good, I managed to get a man who was protested the fact that there was drilling going on in his land. He was a First Nations person from the Algonquin tribe, and they were trying to drill for uranium on his land, and he realized they'd never seeded the land. And so he said, wait a minute, you can't do that. And so he stood in front of the trucks, and they threw him in jail for 6 months. And he was a single father of 2 kids, fully employed. He was a professor at the university. And he was absolutely unjustly jailed, no doubt about it. And word got out through the internet, and there was so much pressure through that the government had to let him out early. And we raised the money to pay for his fine. So that was the sense of good that could come of it. The sense of, the bad side of it really is it's such a platform for hatred, it's unreal, you know. And until I got the internet, I never realized how many people hated how many things, you know. It's astonishing, actually. And, you know, I hate meatloaf and parsley. I can't stand this stuff, you know. And I just don't eat it, you know. I don't go on the internet and rant and rave on nobody should like it, you know. I mean, I don't care if you like it or you don't, you know. And I would like people to get off the internet and want to insist that I, you know, believe in whatever, you know, it's something hateful. I can't do that, you know. So there's that 2 aspects to it, and I thought about it all one night, and I came up with this song because I believe we've opened up Pandora's box of the internet. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think that's exactly what we've done, and we're not about to close that, are we? So it would really behoove us to kind of keep an eye on it for sure. This song's called Pandora's Box. And what's it like behind those eyes? And watch the weary world go by, unnoticed, unrecognized, unbowed, uncowed, unbroken. Pandora's box wide open, hasp and hinges broken. Pandora's box wide open. Amid the braying of the head and the steady fraying of the nerves, down of a million words better left unspoken. Pandora's box wide open, hasp and hinges broken. Pandora's box wide open. To keep the beast at bay, no muzzle to get it away. Measured words of discontent, quiet voice raised in dissent, wheels of justice badly bent, bent and all but broken. Pandora's box wide open, hasp and hinges broken. Pandora's box wide open. It's what I see, I can't deny the evidence in my own eyes. Man exalted, man despised, man all bent and broken. Pandora's box wide open, hasp and hinges broken. Pandora's box wide open. Thank you. Thanks very much. Somebody said when I put that out, I'd have to explain what a hasp was to most people, to tell you the truth. Well, here's a love song for Beth, and it's one about how we first met, really. When we first met, we were very, very opposite people. I was a construction worker at that time. I was a chain-smoking, high-rise construction worker. I lived in downtown Toronto, biggest city in Canada. I lived smack downtown. Beth, on the other hand, was a holistic midwife, and she was living in the forest, in a little cabin, feeding her 2 children nuts and berries, and the rest of them went to small woodland creatures who needed nuts and berries. She was an incredibly wonderful person. She did everything for everybody, and I thought, man, I better start writing her some songs. I'm toast, I'm never going to make it, you know. And so, as it worked out, for the first year and a half, we only got together on the weekends. And that was it, you know. And to my recollection, I don't think we missed a weekend in a year and a half. I'm pretty sure one was at the other place at least. And so, you know, I was fairly keen on her, to say the least. And I would leave the job site as fast as I could on a Friday night, and I would rip up to her place in Ennismore, Ontario. So I was way back in the woods and very, very beautiful. And I'd pull into the little, you know, parking spot at the bottom of her stairs, and I'd look up the stairs, and there she would be, framed in the light of her doorway, waiting for me. I used to sit in that car and think, why would anybody that good looking be waiting for me? Just never figure out. I thought, pretty soon, you know, the other shoe's going to drop. There's no doubt about it, you know. I'm going to turn over in bed one morning and start screaming and never stop, you know. But I thought, I'm hanging tough until then, no doubt about it. And so this is one of the first songs I wrote for Beth, and she unfortunately found out that I wrote songs after that, and I had no intention of doing this for a living. I had every intention of living off of Beth being a midwife, however, because they pay them well in Canada. We want healthy babies, I guess. But at any rate, that didn't happen, but here we are, you know, in Montrose again, and so everything to thank her for, I really do. And this is the song for her that I wrote that I still feel very much is exactly appropriate for how I feel about it. It's called Come Rain or Come Shine, and it has a very, very simple chorus, and if you'd like to sing along with us, you're more than welcome to, honestly. Long road, dark night, nothing but headlights. I'll see some bright lights when I get home to you. Framed in your doorway with your arms open wide, I'll hold you in my arms and fold you inside. And I wanna tell you, come rain or come shine, that'll always be your love, you'll always be mine. Sometimes I wonder what you see in me. Is it someone you're wishing or hoping I'll be? Sometimes I wonder, I can't help myself. Will your love go someplace with somebody else? I wanna tell you, come rain or come shine, that'll always be your love, you'll always be mine. I wanna tell you, come rain or come shine, that'll always be your love, it'll always be mine. Sometimes I wonder what sometimes you wonder what I see in you. Just picture the sun on an ocean of blue. Picture that ocean so deep and so wide. Feel the sun on the water and the pull of the tide. And I wanna tell you, come rain or come shine, that'll always be your love, if you'll always be mine. I wanna tell you, come sunshine. That'll always be your love, it will always be mine. Hey, thanks for singing. Thank you. You sounded great. Make sure you're singing the same one we are at that time, but that was lovely. Really nice to hear. Thanks very much. Here's a song I wrote about my I was married before Beth for 10 years, and she was married to somebody else before me for 10 years. And then we got together. It was all great. But my first marriage was great, too, for like 9.5 years. It was really great. But that last bit was really tough and hard, to say the least. And my wife, I lived in this U-shaped courtyard like that, in old buildings in Toronto. I was the superintendent for the longest time. And at any rate, I was also moving on the weekend. I had a job working for a moving company. And the guy's name for real was Tom Trucker. No kidding. And then that was his real name. No kidding. And he ate cloves of garlic all winter just to keep the, well, every human being near him sick, to tell you the truth. But at any rate, I digress. Anyway, I brought home a guy who was had moved into the co-op just across from me, you know, down like that. And that was the end of it. She fell for him. That was it. So she moved from my apartment to his apartment. Like that. Oh, bad. So I discovered the back door of our apartment, and I just kept going out the back door because I thought, man, I just don't want to see her, you know. And terrible acrimony at first, and then that just kind of emptiness, really, you know, and angst after that. But it went about three months went by before I actually, you know, talked to her again. And I remember thinking to myself, you know, how much of that love could possibly be left? You know, there has to be something left. There just has to be. Because I couldn't have loved anybody more than I loved Abby at that time, and she me, I think. You know, we didn't make it, but we did plan for the long run. But anyway, I thought, you can't love anybody that much and have all of it gone just like that. And I wondered what would happen. So I finally met her on Sumac Street. She was walking down and I was walking up. And I just thought, well, here it comes. And we just stood there and we had a lovely chat. Very pleasant indeed, you know. We talked like total strangers. So I had my answer to how much love was left. Zero, nothing, you know, and nada, zilch, nothing. I said, I was really pangy, I must admit, but she had just gone somewhere else, as simple as that. Love had just left me and got right there. I thought, well, that's what love does the best, I suppose. So I went home that night and I wrote this song for her. I never told her, of course, and I don't think she's ever heard it. I've never spoken to her again. But this song was often used as a first dance when I first wrote it, but I thought, Jesus, Murphy, if this is your first dance, it's the kiss of death for your first dance. So, well, the melody is nice, I must admit. But, anyway, the song is called Sumac Street. It's you and me and a lot of things that never quite got said. It's you and me and a lot of things that rattle around in my head. Oh, never mind, baby, let's go downtown again. Oh, never mind, baby, let's go downtown again. I remember the first time I saw you. You were 11 just down the hall. I stood there waiting to catch you if you started to fall. Oh, never mind, baby, let's go downtown again. Never mind, baby, let's go downtown again. Well, never mind about what happened. We can take that in their stride. Never mind about what happened. You will always be my bride. I remember the last time I saw you. You were walking on Sumac Street. We stood and we talked like strangers, strangers who happened to meet. Oh, never mind, baby, let's go downtown again. Never mind, baby, let's go downtown again. Oh, never mind, baby, let's go downtown again. Oh, thank you. I got snakes. All right. Cool. I wrote this song in Ayers Cliff, Quebec. I lived down there for, I think it was 11 years or so. And Sunday morning is the best time to go to Ayers Cliff because they're ringing the church bell. It's beautiful. Not a carol or anything, just a single tolling bell. And there's lots of churches at Ayers Cliff. There's only one that rings the bell, and that happens to be St. Bartholomew's, I found out. So I was sitting on my front steps having a smoke when I still did that, and I wasn't really thinking about anything, certainly not heeding the bell, that's for sure. And but I was watching people getting called to worship. And I thought, well, there's the bell doing its job. It's calling, you know, the faithful to worship, and it's reaching people like myself who went to church right up until I didn't have to anymore and stopped immediately. And I didn't stop on religious grounds at all. I stopped because it was too early on Sunday morning and I was a teenager. It was over, you know. But I'd learned a great lesson, which was this. It was treat others the way you want to be treated. That's what I learned in church. And I thought that was the best lesson I've ever learned. It made total sense to me. A lot of stuff went sailing over my head, I'll admit it, you know, but that one always made sense to me. Do unto others, you know, as you'd have them do unto you. And I thought, that's been a good one. So I've lived my whole life with that. And so anyway, that morning I started this song because of that bell. I started thinking about all of that in church and Sunday school and how it had stood me in good stead. And so I did that, and I worked on the song for about an hour. I just write them in my head. I don't use an instrument. I just get the melody and the lyric. I start singing it, and I sing it till it's done, essentially. That could take days or minutes or hours or whatever it is. So that's how I do it. So I'm sitting on my front steps for about an hour or so, and I was running out of steam, so I kind of went up the hill behind my house and sat there, and there's a little bench up there that was out of sight, out of mind. They couldn't see me at all, but I could see everything that was going on. It was a really neat place. And I worked for another hour on that again, and about a little while after that, my little daughter came home from Sunday school, because I sent her to Sunday school. The word you're looking for is hypocrite. David was a hypocrite that Sunday morning. So I knew it was, but you know, I sent her for the same reason I went. You know, it was just that there's a good in there if you can dig deep enough. And she came home that day, and she just learned this new hymn, one of the childhood hymns we all may know and live with and remember our entire lives. And she just sung with this beautiful little voice. And she didn't see me at all, but there she was coming up driving into the house along the path, singing at the top of her beautiful little voice. And I thought, man, what a gift to be given, you know, this moment of pure beauty. And so I finished the song, which was pretty cool. I was glad that happened, you know. And but that little girl, all those years ago, gave me my first grandchild 3 years ago, and she cranked out another one 3 months ago. So it's going well on the grandkid front. But she, you know, he's nothing special. I noticed that when people become grandparents, they get very, very you know, attached to their grandkids, and I thought, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to brag about them, no way. So I do have a grandson. It's true. He's 3 years old. He's a cross between Gandhi and Einstein. That's all he is. He's nothing special. So this song is called "Saints and Sinners." I've had great fortune have it covered over here. I think started with Chris Drever and Queen Paul brought it back. It's been covered many times. It's a beautiful version over here. I love it to death. I wept when I first heard them. They slowed it right down to a hymn for agnostics, is what it is. And but this is the way I wrote it when it came out. It was Sunday morning in our town, and I sat on my steps and I stared at the ground, and I bowed my head while they shuffled past, all the saints being called to the morning mass, and off in the distance there rang a bell. Way off in the distance there rang a bell, and it rang for the saints and the sinners as well. Way off in the distance there rang a bell. I remember the lessons of Sunday school, and I can't help but think maybe I'm the fool. But I see no sign of a greater plan, just the joy and the sorrow of our fellow man. And off in the distance there rang a bell, way off in the distance there rang a bell, and it rang for the saints and the sinners as well. Way off in the distance there rang a bell. And here we stand while life rushes past, between the first breath and the last. And here we stand between east and west, and here we stand between birth and death. I was watching the news the other night. There was a war on the left, there was a war on the right. And it's no surprise that as I saw them, it's a long way from heaven to Bethlehem. And off in the distance there rang a bell, way off in the distance there rang a bell, and it rang for the saints and the sinners as well. Way off in the distance there rang a bell. This is a song that I wrote kind of a fallow period, and but I managed to equate love and rain, because I believe we need them both as much as we need anything on this earth, including air. We need love and rain, and rain could be a total drag. There's no doubt about that. I know that. Certainly, been through that plenty of times, and I lived in Scotland for heaven's sake, so I knew all about it before it turned into the I don't know what this weather's like here, but we must be weather gods. That's the only thing I can think of, because everywhere we've gone, it's been, even in Ireland, it was sunny, So anyway, we'll be leaving tomorrow, so hope the deluge doesn't get me down, but it won't be raining in Fort William, I can tell you that. So anyway, we've just been phenomenally lucky, but it would also be a really huge drag, the worst actually. But anyway, I did this song we kind of debuted it at the Winnipeg Folk Festival, big huge festival, and we're on an outdoor stage, beautiful sunny day, just like we had today, hardly a cloud in the sky. I leaned into the mic and said, and this song's called Rain, and it actually poured out of a clear blue sky. It really did. He was there to see it. And then our luck changed, so God is still holding so far. The song is called Rain. Clouds gather and the rain falls, and it fell so well that feeds us all. And I'm loath to complain, but it's been years of hard rain, and the heart knows its own mind, and the heart sees, and the heart's blind, and the heart breaks like a window pane until it can't stop all the hard rain, 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 rain. The heart sings its own song, and love's here, then love's gone. And is it love if you love in vain? And is the sound of love just a hard rain? Love writes its own wrongs and lights away and leads us on, and the sun will shine in the sky again on the other side, and it's hard rain, 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 rain. This is a song about unrequited love, and I realize I've written dozens of love songs, you know, about a lot of aspects of love, but never one about unrequited love. And it's happened to me my entire life. I think it's bad choices, to tell you the truth, but or impossible dreams and choices. But it's happened to me a lot in my life, and right from, you know, when I was this high on, you know, when I was this high on, it was a little 3-year-old blonde girl named Luann Hartman, just so you know, and never paid an ounce of attention to me. It was horrible. But I'm nearly feeling better now, actually. But anyway, you know, it does happen, and I thought, well, it must be kind of universal. I mean, I know there's some folks that are very, very lucky indeed, and you know, fall for the person of their life and just hang on to that person all the way through. And you know, I figured it was more or less universal, except for those lucky folks. But at any rate, I decided to write it, and then when I finished it, I thought to myself, well, one thing I'm not going to do when I get to a club is say, who's got an unrequited love out there? Because most people come in pairs, and you know, you can imagine what would happen if only one of you put your hand up. So stay away from that one completely. So if you want to think about your unrequited love and you do have one, and it was a long time ago, then I suggest you just kind of, you know, put a neutral look on your face and reach over and grab the hand of the person next to you and make sure it's the person you came with, for heaven's sake. And then just think about the other person when the song is going on. And that's what I would do, but I'm shallow, I must tell you. But anyway, this song is called Unrequited Love. It is about unrequited love, and it's called A Star Above. Right, I just have to have a little thing. Talk amongst yourselves, just having a drink. And if you were a star above, you shine more brightly than the rest. And if you were a song of love, you'd be the tune I love the best. A melody to break the heart, and words that ring forever true, speak of love and all its joys. And that's a song I'd sing for you. And if you were a garden flower, you'd be the rose, the only one. And even in my darkest star, you'd be the welcome morning sun. Oh, if I could only pick that flower and hold its beauty close to me, if only for one fleeting hour, I dream of what can never be. slip beneath the waves, no, we would never part. Oh, and I would drown inside of you and gladly draw my final breath, wait for all eternity, and count myself among the blessed, and wait for all eternity, and count myself among the blessed. Thank you. This song came out of the Bitterroot Valley in Montana. I was very, very fortunate to go down there and play some songs for them. And I really enjoyed it a lot. It's a wonderful place to be. It's very, very beautiful. But I saw two aspects of Christianity down there that I was quite taken with, or figured out two of them anyway. There was a girl at one of the workshops, and she was one of those people that lit up a room with her smile, and she truly did. It was actually astonishing to see. And so I talked to her afterwards to kind of figure out where that joy came from, you know. And turns out she was a religious girl, you know, had a really deep sense of her Christianity in a really good way, and not a nut bar kind, you know, didn't want to change everything to their way, just going to live and let live and look after people. I thought that was beautiful. And she sung on this album called Bread and Water, which I thought was beautiful as well, the title. It was a good album. We were listening to it on the way home. She gave it to me to listen to. And then my guitar player at the time said, can we take that off? You know, we're 3 songs into it, you know. And I said, oh yeah, man, sure. And he goes, look, can we take that off right now? And I said, well, I guess, sure we can. We'll have to find out about that. Turns out he was raised in a Salvation Army house, and he was just very, very into the whole thing until he got into his teens. And then he saw people, of course, breaking the tenets of the church, left, right, and center. They're doing that because they're all flawed, same as the rest of us. You know, it's a pretty hard road to hoe. But anyway, he took that as a complete refutation of everything he'd ever learned or taken from there, which I thought was kind of sad, you know. And then I started thinking about the Salvation Army and realized I don't know anything about them really. You know, they ring a bell at Christmas in Canada, and I put money in the little calendar every time, you know, easily. And I know it goes to good works. And the only other thing I know about them is their flag. The flag says the only words on the flag are blood and fire. Blood and fire. So I thought, well, there's 2 aspects of Christianity there: bread and water, blood and fire. And I thought, well, where would that fall? And I thought, well, I'll see enough brimstone when this ride's over. I'll go with bread and water every time, you know. And so I wrote this song, and then I was talking to this intellectual turd that I was talking to, and an absolute arse. And at any rate, he said he's taking me to task for the song, you know. And I said, you know, I was keeping my temper, and it was all cool. And he goes, bread and water, blood and fire. He says, and you'd come down on bread and water, would you? Every time? I said, every time, man, for sure. And he goes, well, that's very hippy-dippy of you. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I heard those words, you know. Check my watch, and it's the century right enough, you know. So I said, what are you talking about? I said, you know, hippy-dippy. And he goes, maybe not hippy-dippy. He said, more like lovey-dovey. I'm thinking, I'm just getting madder by the minute, you know. But I just said, oh, well, man, I guess, you know, better lovey-dovey than stabby-shooty, you know. You know, what an arse. I couldn't believe it. But at any rate, you know, I have a say, and if you take offense at the song, I can't do anything about that. I meant no offense. It's just a way of drawing a comparison, that's all. If you want to get up and leave en masse, it was a very bad choice to make, for sure. Anyway, I figured out what his problem was. He had his head way up his arse, and he liked the view. That's what his problem was. So this song is called Bread and Water and Blood and Fire. It's called Bitterroot, after the valley. Bitterroot, the biggest sky, the valley wide, the mountain high, the holy girl whose smile was light, the crescent moon, the bird in flight, the chorus rising higher and higher. Bread and water, blood and fire, bread and water, blood and fire, bread and water, blood and fire, bread and water, blood and fire. And so they sang their songs of praise, revelation and judgment day, words of faith and their beliefs, the height of joy and the depths of grief. Teach you joy a man's desire, bread and water, blood and fire, bread and water, blood and fire, bread and water, blood and fire, bread and water, blood and fire. That was his life, as every day took in every word they'd say, truth being turned in every way, and he saw the cracks in the feet of clay. And so he sang along with them, hard as empty as the wind. He never even heard the call of mercy offered up to all, just a chorus in the telephone wires. Bread and water, blood and fire, 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 bread and water, blood and fire. Thank you. Thanks for not leaving. I appreciate that. Well, look at it, the morning train. All right. I wrote this song in Denmark. It's a great place to go, Denmark, no doubt about it. I was after a festival, and I was on my way up to the north end of the Jutland Peninsula. I was waiting at a train station after this wonderful festival called the Tuner Festival. And I was absolutely blank as a TV screen that morning, because as a musician at this Denmark festival, they give you free beer 24 hours a day. God love Denmark, keep it always, I say. But it was great, I was having a great time. But I was sitting at the train station, and I was, fairly happy, but fairly wasted. And I was just waiting for the train, and I thought I saw Jesus. I mean, no offense to anyone, of course, but this fella came around the corner of the station. I thought, oh my God, it's Jesus, it's a train station, no less, And then the next thought, of course, was I wonder where he's going, just in case, But it wasn't anything, it wasn't Jesus either. But it did get me thinking about deities and rail transport that morning on the train. And so I was sitting in the train, feeling pretty good about everything, and so I wrote this vaguely hopeful song. I included, it's Jesus, Buddha, and Allah. And so I did those three, and then I had to get off the train because it was, that was it, it was done. So I figured, the song must be done, that must be it. But I took it to record in Nashville with a couple of Americana players I really love, Kieran Kane and Kevin Welsh and Vance Kaplan. And the pre-production was, here's one, boys, and I'd sing it for them. And they loved the song, but they said, too short, Francey, too short, man. And I said, well, boys, I'm not a deity. I got nothing left here, And then Kevin saved the day. He's from Oklahoma, and he goes, Francey, man, you're not giving the devil his due, pal. He drawled that out. I just went, absolutely, ran outside, wrote it down, came back inside, and we did that song in one take. This is one of those fantastic moments. But anyway, thanks so much for having us at the club thus far, and this will be our last song of the set. And I'm really glad you came, truly, and very honored you came as well. And anyway, if you're not here in the second half, we'll still be playing anyway, but I hope you're here, that's for sure. There's CDs for sale up there, and if you want one, you can go buy one, and if you don't, don't. That's pretty simple. If you do buy them, we'll be happy to sign them, and we'll sign anybody else's CD you have in the car. If you ever don't give me a signature on them, just bring them in, we'll sign them, no sweat. But it's been great fun. This is my friend Aidan Skymaster Ritchie over there. He's taking pictures of us tonight, so he's a wonderful photographer, and he's been incredibly out of the picture, so thanks, Paul, very much for that. And I'd like to thank Mark for the sound, because I don't know how to run one of those boards. But at any rate, we'll see you in the second half, and thanks for coming out thus far. The song is called Morning Train. I met Jesus in the morning, he was waiting for a train. He said he thought it might be time to come down and explain how wrong it was to do some things and do them in his name. He said, after all, everybody's riding on this train. I met Buddha on the subway underground. I saw his smile slowly fade, I saw him looking around. He said he wished we'd understand and do so in his name. He said, after all, everybody's riding on this train. I met Allah on the L train above the city streets, and we rattled down the railway line and we looked down on the meek. He said he wondered why it was some never feel the pain. He said, after all, everybody's riding on this train. I saw the devil standing at the station in the rain. He had a smile upon his face, self-satisfied and vain. Said heaven has its own reward, I don't have to explain. He said, after all, everybody's riding on this train.
Thanks, guys, for an excellent first half.
Let's see, that's Black Westbird. We're closing for the last three guys. I love the floor spots. You know, we don't do that in Canada at all. So you always hear folks. It's incredible what's out there. I really enjoyed every single one of you. Thanks so much. Don't come to Canada, please. I've got enough competition as it is. So, well, as you noticed in that last, if you noticed that last set, there wasn't one happy song in it, not one. So we're going to rectify that right now. We're going to do the happy song very top of the set, and then we'll just dwindle down to sheer miserable sadness by the end of the set. So this is a happy song. It's about the coming of spring. And where we live in Eastern Ontario, it's pretty brutal. It's a long, really hard winter. I'm not complaining, that's just what it is. But man, when you just see signs of spring, you are just so happy at all times. You know, as soon as you see the first one. And the first one up our way are red-winged blackbirds, and they're great birds. And I live in front of a swamp, and it's I mean, it doesn't sound as bad as it is. It's been renamed a wetland in Canada. You can't call it a swamp anymore, but it's like calling it an apartment a condo, I guess. I've no really idea. But it's a lovely place, and before the ice is even out of that swamp behind our house, the red-winged blackbirds come back. And it'll have to be the bravest bird in the world. And they'll just put up with any snow or anything else as long as they get back. And the males they find the highest rush from last year, they start screaming their heads off for a mate. And it works, because I went out behind my house and I started screaming my head off, and lo and behold, my wife Beth showed up just like that, you know. And she says, "What are you doing?" And I told her, you know, and she says, "You're an idiot." And I said, "Yeah, but you're here, that's the main thing." So there's a song called Red-Winged Blackbird. It is happy. It starts with the chorus, so there's two in the middle, and there's two at the end. And if you have it by the end, that would be great. But you're more than welcome to sing it with us. It would be terrific. So here's a happy one. Don't forget, it's going to go by pretty quickly, and it's all downhill. Here we go. red-winged blackbird down my road. But I heard a red-winged blackbird, red-winged blackbird down my road. You'll be there beside the river within to finally breaks its bones. You'll be king among the rushes, he'll be master of his home. But I heard a red-winged blackbird down my road. But I heard a red-winged blackbird down my road. Safe as Moses in the rushes built his home on the river wide. Every time I hear him singing makes me feel like spring inside. But I heard a red-winged blackbird down my road. But I heard a red-winged blackbird down my road. He'll be in there singing his heart out, he'll be telling me stories true. Where he went a winter last year, how he's going back there too. But I heard a red-winged blackbird down my road. But I heard a red-winged blackbird down my road. But I heard a red-winged blackbird down my road. But I heard a red-winged blackbird down my road. My last part of the guitar. Thank you. We'll send it up. You're the guys for Alberta. Is that right? Saskatchewan. Great to see you. It just clicked on me. Carry on, I'm having a conversation here. It's my show anyway. Hey, great. Send that one out to you guys. Great to see you. Jeez. Walked right by you in there. I knew it. It's good thing. Cool. I request tonight from one we haven't done in a long time. And it's George and Vina asked for this one, and they've been acting as the Francettes tonight over on that table there, singing on everything, which I very much appreciate. It's a song I wrote in the Montreal bus station, and for the first time in many, many years, 25 years, I ended up having to take the bus from Montreal down to Sherbrooke, Quebec, where I lived. And I thought, oh, this is going to be just torturous, you know, but I got into the station, and I sat down, I waited on a bus station at the gate, you know, and I realized that in 25 years since I'd been in a bus station and nothing had changed. It was exactly the same. The weirdest people doing the damnedest things right in front of you, you know. I thought, that's a constant in life, you know. And I whipped out this envelope I had in my back pocket. I still have it. I wrote down the song as I was waiting for my bus, you know. I had the first, I guess, 2 verses done. That was all going well. And the bridge bit and the little chorusy thing. And I needed one more verse, and I was kind of stuck. And I was just kind of sitting there looking around the station, and this girl came in. She's a very attractive girl. And she came in, she sat down right across from me, you know. And she jackknifed her legs. And when she jackknifed her legs, it raised her pant leg up. When her pant leg was raised up, it showed her ankle. And on her ankle was the ugliest tattoo I've ever seen in my life. You know, and there's some wicked ones out there now, but this was beyond, you know, just like, oh, absolutely admired her beauty, you know. And I thought, oh, what a bummer. Oh, that's a real drag. I thought, better put her in the song, so I did, you know. Right away in my little envelope, and sure enough, I thought to myself, I'm writing away, I'm getting on the stream, you know, so I don't want to lift my head at all. So just writing it down right as it comes, and I'm thinking, I'm going to go over there and you know, and thank her for helping me finish my song. And so when I finished the song, I raised my head up, and of course she was gone. Her bus had been called or whatever. So I never got a chance to go over there and say, you know, thank you for helping me finish my song, and I feel really sorry about that tattoo. You know, it's a real bummer. So, but anyway, in her honor, I called this song Ankle Tattoo, and this is for George and Vina, and it's been a while, so we'll do our best on it. I was at the bus station, that terminal place, with the rest of the desperate who've fallen from grace, where eyes are averted, where other eyes stare, man talking to somebody, nobody's there. And the terminal cases are impossibly young, and an old man is asking if I've seen his son. And the cops do a walk-through, but a slip into bags, and the beggar boy is standing there, hanging in rags. Nothing much changes, just the passing of time, and the faces that wait here at the end of the line. Nothing much changes, just the passing of time, and the faces that wait here at the end of the line. And the eyes that get raised to the blue of the screen, for the coming and going of men and machines, and I think very likely the departure of dreams, the arrival of the midnight hour. To get raised to the blue of the screen, to the coming and going of men and machines, and I think very likely the departure of dreams, the arrival of the midnight hour. There's a girl with her legs crossed, got an ankle tattoo. It's an ugly reminder of 4 shades of blue. And the bad boys, the rude boys, they're into the game, and they keep their eyes open for the halt and the lame. And nothing much changes, just the passing of time, and the faces that wait here at the end of the line. Nothing much changes, just the passing of time, and the faces that wait here at the end of the line. That's excellent. It's not about Beth or anybody, it's about a farmer friend of mine. I meet wonderful people in this job all over the world. It's incredible. And they're just, thousands a year, essentially. But I was working construction still when I did this. Because before I got into folk music, I was 20 years in construction. I was a laborer and a carpenter. And, well, of course, I finally did get into the lucrative world of folk music, and so here I am, of course. But I met this great farmer in Peterborough County, Ontario. And he came from a full farming family. They had a big dairy farm. And he told me a story one night over a few beers, and I found it tremendously interesting. And I managed to boil it down to this. He always knew he wanted to be a farmer, always. And so he quit high school as soon as he could, very, very bright man. But he went straight into farming with his mom and dad and learned it inside out, as he had since he was a kid. And then he married a girl from the farm next door, and they had 3 children together. And then eventually his mom and dad moved into town and then turned the farm over to Roy, and he and his 3 kids moved into the farm and just kept running it. And then he said one day he came home from the fields, and his house was empty. Their wife and the 3 kids were gone. And the only thing left was a table that didn't fit in the truck and a piano that nobody wanted anyway. And that was it. And I said, well, did you see it coming, Roy? And he says, no, David, I never saw it coming. He says, it was a bit rough, but I thought we were doing fine. And I said, well, what'd you do, man? He says, well, I've never been so low in my life. He said, but I just kept going, And I know the family really well now, and that's true. No matter what comes up to them, any adversity at all, their heads just go down and they just march right through it. Typical farmers, And so I thought it was pretty inspiring. And so what he told me was that they were bored down on the farm, worked really hard with his mom and dad on the farm, put his life back together. And then, of course, the Holstein dance was coming up, he told me. I'm sitting across the table from blank as a TV, man. I have no idea what he's talking about. Holstein dance. All I could think of was Far Side cartoons with Gary Larson, 2 big cows waltzing about together, But he says, no, dude, it's our big dairy dance. I said, oh, cool. He says, yep, I needed somebody to go with. I couldn't find a soul. So finally he asked one of the hired hands in the morning who to take to this dance. And the hired hand thinks for a nanosecond, and he says, oh, check out the bell lady, Roy, she's hot. You know. Roy goes, is that right? Oh yeah. He says, what time does she show up? She says, 8 o'clock. And so Roy said, there I was trying to be nonchalant with my mailbox at 8 o'clock in the morning. He was waiting for her. He said, all my lines worked out. And she pulls up in the car, and he goes around the side of the car. She rolls down the window, and she's a stunner. He said, David, she was so beautiful, man. She's a complete stunner. He said, I lost everything I was going to say to her. And he said, finally, I was just standing there like a fish, man, going, he said, just before I hyperventilated, I managed to scream at her, do you want to go to the Holstein dance? And she sort of went, sure. And they went to the Holstein dance. A few other dances after that. And pretty soon, Roy ended up marrying her, and they had a lovely little boy together. And his life was kind of back on track and saved again. So it's a lovely song about the triumph of love. And I'm very glad Roy likes it, because I forgot to tell him about writing it until I put it on the record. But fortunately he does. He's a very large farmer, let me tell you that. At any rate, it says, I wrote this for Roy McGregor in Peterborough County, Ontario. It's called Greenfield. In Peterborough County, there's a village in a valley. We have a farm at the top of the hill. You can have your city streets and your backyards and your alleys. We have these green fields and always will. And I'm married out of high school to a girl I knew forever, and we settled in together, and 3 children came. And the life that we were living was forgive and be forgiven, but whenever I saw sunshine, she could only see rain. Left me standing in the cornfields with the dry land all around me, and I felt myself sinking with the setting sun. And the sky was like the ocean pouring down around me. I used to be so proud, I was all undone. So I kept on working my land, and I held on with both hands. And I watched the seasons turning in the sky above. And I worked beside my father, and we bent our backs together. And I wonder, will I ever find someone to love? But when I was good and ready, when I stood up strong and steady, love came with the letters and the morning mail. And I knew that I'd found her when I put my arms around her. When I see her now in the morning, how that sunrise pales. Leaves me standing in the cornfields with the dry land all around me. And I feel myself rising with the morning sun. And the sky was like the ocean, white and blue and rolling. And I know that in my own heart, she's the only one. In Peterborough County, there's a village in a valley. We have a farm at the top of the hill. You can have your city streets and your backyards and your alleys. We have these green fields, and always will. Thanks very much. What do we got? Oh, I got blue yonder. Let me give it a whirl. Okay, good. going to play the same one. That always works out well, no doubt about it. This is a cappella I wrote after I got back from Australia. I was asked my dad, I said, hey Dad, when we emigrated to Scotland, I said, did you have a choice between, Canada and Australia? And he says, oh, I did. I said, what were you thinking? They just got back from Australia. It was like perfect weather, perfect everything, I love Canada, of course. To my bones, I love it. But man, that's some country, Australia. We're going back for Christmas very shortly after we get back from this tour. So anyway, I'll be glad to be going. But that night was a miserable night. It was November 17th was my birthday. Maybe some time to write that down on your iPods and stuff. And he's going to send me something. But it was just miserable cold out. I just wanted to be back on that plane. So anyway, it's a song called Blue Yonder. Here on the ground, it's a long way down to the land down under, and all I want to do is ride into the blue yonder. I'd be up in the sky and I'd be higher than high, and it's no wonder that all I want to do is ride into the blue yonder. Into the blue yonder, into the blue yonder. All I want to do is ride into the blue yonder. Into the blue yonder, into the blue yonder. All I want to do is ride into the blue yonder. I'd be up in the clouds and I'd be laughing out loud with the world to wonder. And all I want to do is ride into the blue yonder. I'd be into the blue and I'd be gone and through, and I'd be out from under. And all I want to do is ride into the blue yonder. Into the blue yonder. Into the blue yonder. All I want to do is ride into the blue yonder. Into the blue yonder. Into the blue yonder. All I want to do is ride into the blue yonder. When I married Beth, before I married Beth, I had a big decision to make, because I came out of my first marriage at 10 years with no kids. And I thought that was the way I wanted to go, and that was the way I wanted to go. But when I came out, I could have done anything really. I could have moved to Montrose if I even thought about it, but I didn't. But I could have done anything. But I thought, oh, I'll just hang loose with her a bit, work, make some money up, save some dough, and see where I end up. Well, lo and behold, a year later, my heart, a little bit more after than that, my heart took me to Beth, and I fell for her pretty hard. I truly did. And she came with 2 kids from her first marriage, so. It was a bit of a day of reckoning, really, to think about that, because I didn't really feel like father material, And as it turns out, I was perfectly correct in that. But I decided to ignore my initial feeling, and I thought, I'm just going to get married to Beth, And so I went to talk to my mom, because you should always talk to your mom when you're faced with something like that. And I went to Mom and I said, hey Mom, I said, I've done a lot of thinking about things. I said, I'm going to get married to Beth, I'm going to take those kids on as mine. And that's going to be my family. What do you think of that? And with typical Scots enthusiasm, my mother said, hung for a sheep as a lamb, son, away you go. So with that rousing endorsement, Beth and I got married, and my mom finally came around about 12 years later. She made it around to that. But then I realized, oh man, I'm inheriting a 14-year-old girl, The youngest one was no problem, but then I thought, 14-year-old girl, this is going to be a disaster, I was 14 years old was when I went off the rails with my dad, and he was a lovely man. But, as soon as he said black, I said white as fast and hard as I could. And I just picked a fight with him. I picked a fight with the loveliest man that ever walked. No bad word to say about anybody, my dad. If you didn't like it, you never heard a word about it, you know. But my mother had made up for that in spades. She didn't like anybody, and she was no problem telling you, you know. So I had a balanced childhood, as they say. But anyway, I was expecting the worst. But you know, again, my luck held, and I got the best. I got this wonderful kid. At 14, she was incredible, and she was, you know, literally kind and helpful and happy and warm and charming and just a wonderful person, you know, funny and all that stuff. At 14, she did turn 16, and that was the end of all of that in a big hurry. But by that time, it was far too late. And anyway, she talked to me about school, and she, you know, things weren't going that good in high school. She just entered it, and then she says, "Things aren't going good, David. It's the boys don't even look at me." And I said, "Well, Amy," I said, "I wouldn't worry about it, sweetheart. It's only been like a week. You got to give them some time, you know." And I said, "You know, I was 14 years old not that long ago, and I said I remember it quite well." And I said there was a girl who held my heart in her hand every single day, but I never got a word out to her because I was very, very short and extremely homely. I said I had no chance with that girl. So I said it didn't change the fact of how I felt. And sure enough, you know, 2 weeks later, a young man called, and it was all over, and Amy was as happy as a clam for the rest of her high school life. So I was glad about that. It did make me wonder that, you know, only thing that changes in high schools are fashion. Fashion changes. Fashion changes year to year. You know, hair gets long, hair gets short, skirts get long, skirts get short, pants get thin, pants get wide. And the actual example I use these days of my own son, who's the nicest boy you'd ever meet. He's 6'3". He's as kind as all get out. He's very, very smart. And he's as gentle as a man can be, I suppose, without being a pushover, you know. But the last thing I see of this lovely boy in the morning when he was going to get his bus was his boxer shorts, because he wore his pants off his arse. And so this year, he's decided to wear them on his arse, you know, and I think that's a great thing. I'm all for that. And when he was in the midst of that, you know, wear your shorts somewhere, or your pants somewhere down around the back of your knees, I would never get upset, because he'd be going out of the house, and I would think to myself, it could be worse. He could wear a thong. Always a bright side. Anyway, this is a song I wrote for my daughter Amy, who I love very much, and her name is, she was 14 when I wrote this song. It's called Broken Glass. Very simple chorus if you want to get a hold of it. Great. Saw you standing in the cafeteria line, and I'd given the world just to make you mine. Saw you at your locker in the high school hall, and it didn't take a minute for my heart to fall when you hear a sound like broken glass. That's my heart every time that girl walks past. And when you hear a sound like the rush of wind, just be catching my breath again. Saw you on the bus on the way back home. You were sitting so pretty, sitting all alone. Couldn't think of anything much to say, except I'll love you forever till we die. And you hear a sound like broken glass. That's my heart every time that girl walks past. And when you hear a sound like the rush of wind, just be catching my breath again. Makes me think of then. I remember how and I remember when. You go to a party hoping that she's sure, and you dance in the darkness of Abbey Road, and when you hear a sound like broken glass, that's my heart every time that girl walks past. And when you hear a sound like the rush of wind, sound like broken glass. That's my heart every time that girl walks past. And when you hear a sound like the rushing wind, just be catching my breath again. Had a request for this song, and when I got into this line of music, it opens doors for you all over the place. Quite remarkable. You know, when you're a carpenter or a labourer, you ask to do something. Generally, people don't do it for you. You know, but if you sing a couple of songs and write songs, we're more than happy to do it. It's a really weird world we live in. But anyway, I always wanted to go on a big freighter through the Great Lakes, up the St. Lawrence River where we entered Canada, and then right up through the Great Lakes all the way to the Lakehead and back. And it was kind of a dream of mine ever since I saw those boats. I love large, oily things that move, especially if they're floating. And these boats are wonderful things called lake boats. And they carry, big, huge masses of ore, like 800 tractor trailer loads essentially in each boat. And the boat itself is enormous. And I got on it by being married to Beth, because I told her that's what I wanted to do more than anything. When she stopped laughing, she actually organized it for me. And I went on with a fellow named Mike Ford. And it was a great trip, wonderful. And on that boat, we met a really lovely man. His name was Bowser McCree. And he was the third mate on that boat. And he was, by far, the roughest man I've ever seen in my life. He was a monster. And he had the boys he got boys like a box of rocks is what he had, And he's on there, and when I met him, I was lying in my cabin, and still asleep. I was supposed to be up at 8 to meet the captain, but I had a really late night, And then at 8 o'clock in the morning, he's standing at my door, and he's awesome. And he's standing at my door like this. He hasn't said a word, and he just hates me already, I think, and I'm lying in the bed like this. Look at the head. I'm thinking, oh my, oh jeez, oh man, I wish I had pants on. That's all I could think of. I could think of nothing else. Man. He was intimidating beyond belief. I did work in construction for 20 years, and I worked with bad boys who were just out of jail for a little while. They're going back, those good fellas. But he was an enormous man and a really great man. I liked him a lot, but I was pretty intimidated the first time I met him. He takes us down to his cabin and he shows us, where he used to live and where he lives now. It's all like a family thing, And then, finally he says to me, and that's my wife, Dave. She's I've got a picture of her, on the video. And he says, that's my wife. He says, that's the greatest woman that ever walked the earth, Dave. He said, yep, she's the saving grace of me. And then with a dead straight face, he looks at me and he says, I was a rough man once, Dave. All I could really muster up was, surely not you, Bowser, but, oh yeah. He said, I'm all right now because of her, And so this man was, an imminent threat to my well-being, seriously imminent threat. He just melted right in front of me as soon as he talked about his family. And then we got chapter and verse on the kids, and they're 21 years old, and they're down to 5 years old. And we get chapter and verse on every single one of them. And he phones them in the morning, and he phones them at night from the wing bridge. And it was kind of a touching thing. He's gone 3 months at a time. He's not as bad as we are. But he won't be home for 3 months at a time, and he misses them. That's plain and simple. So he talks to them morning and night, and most of the time it's just Donna and the little boy that's there. And he told me what his little 5-year-old son said to him one night, and it helped me finish the song I was writing about him. And it made me think of a Gordon Lightfoot song called The Edmund Fitzgerald, the record of Edmund Fitzgerald. We were on Lake Superior, and I'm there, and I'm in his cabin singing him his song for some reason. But I just, in the deepest of the Great Lakes, I picked them to sing him his song. I'm in the cabin, he's sitting there like, Politburo looking at me, I'm thinking, oh man. So halfway through the song, I'm thinking, I hope he likes this song, because Gordon Lightfoot said, this lake never gives up, it's dead, So we're here to sing it for you, because Bowser likes this song, and he's become a bit of a folk hero in Cape Breton because of it. It's a lovely man, his name is Greg Bowser McCree, and this is the ballad of Bowser McCree. We'll sing that tonight for Aidan and Alan. I was born in Cape Breton, I was born by the sea line, bridge and sweet boulder tree. And by age 17 there was nothing for me, so I headed for thorough washed up on the beach. And I slept in the jungle, left hard to befall, until I found myself standing at the SIU hall. And with nothing to stay for, no kids and no wife, I sang on my morning for the rest of my life. And my back was strong and that strength never failed. And up the Detroit River on the Ferndale I sailed. And now I am married to the woman I love. She's a gift I was given from heaven above. And I call every morning and I call every night. Oh, I ever wanted the love of my life. Now in the evening when we talk on the phone, she says, I love you darling, when you're coming back home. And tonight, down the lane I heard my boy say, he says, Daddy, I miss you more every day. But when I hear your voice, then I feel alright. He says, I love you, Daddy, good luck and good night. And now in the evening when we talk on the phone, he says, I love you, Daddy, when you're coming back home. And I was born in Cape Breton, I was born by the sea. By the sea, and virgin, sweet boy. Can you give me a knee flat or a shoulder? Anymore? Sending this one out to Gary and Charlie tonight, and the Francettes at that table over there. So it's you'll hear it. It's an a cappella. It's a minute 38 seconds long. It's a big part of the reason I'm here, actually, oddly enough. The song is called Torn Screen Door. A late summer day in my love and I went walking. Over hills and fields we walked, laughing and talking. Came across an old farmhouse standing broken and bare. It used to be someone's home, now no one was there. And there's a red barn standing held together with nails and dust, and a tired old mossy harris, all wires and rust. And weeds overgrown and a garden sown with care. It used to be someone's home, now no one lives there. And through the crack in the window pane, hear the sound of the falling rain. Now the farm being left run down, now the family moved into town. Had a life that they tried to save, but the banks took it all away. Hung a sign on a torn screen door, nobody lives here no more. They worked their fingers to the bone, nothing left they could call their own. Packed it in under leaden skies, just the weed waving them goodbye. Had a life that they tried to save, but the banks took it all away. Hung a sign on a torn screen door, nobody lives here no more. Had a life that they tried to save, but the banks took it all away. Hung a sign on a torn screen door, nobody lives here no more. Thank you. very much. Oh, lovely. Well, it's been great to be back here, and Montrose is very, very beautiful, I have to say. It's just been wonderful, and I thank Ken very much, Gary very much for keeping the folk club going and for bringing us in. It's wonderful to have a place to be and to stay. And they treated us super well, so we don't really see any reason for leaving except I'm desperately lonely and want to see my wife. But other than that, I'd probably stay around for a while. But it'd be a long night of well, a little rough a cappella and really bad guitar if it wasn't for the man on my left-hand side, your right-hand side. From Toronto, Ontario, that's my great musical friend and partner, Mr. Mark Westpark. This song, this of course the last, I was nuts about maps, and so I checked out the maps, all these different places, read about them. Then I read John Steinbeck's Travels with Charlie. I don't know if you've ever read it or not. He's a wonderful American author. And what he did way back in the early 60s, he got in his big camper van, or a small camper van, I should say, with a great big poodle, which was his dog. I don't know why he picked a poodle, but that's too bad. Anyway, it was there, and he drove it around America. And he saw this stuff, and not the glitzy stuff that you always see, but the underbelly of stuff, and interesting things, and workers and people like that. And I thought, that's what I want to see. That's exactly what I want to see. And when I read that book, I was just sparked with wanderlust immediately. And so when I was 16, I said to my dad, hey, Dad, I'm going to go to Vancouver this summer. He goes, oh, yeah, son. He says, how are you getting in there? And I said, I've got a one-way ticket on the train. And he says, well, how are you getting back? And I remember thinking, yeah, he was so practical, But anyway, I said, I'm hitchhiking back. He goes, well, yeah. And I said, all right. So I've been doing all this reading. So this is stuff I really want to see, Dad, And I said, I'm 16, I can do it. And he says, all right. He says, well, you're 16. I'm sure you can do it. He says, but remember, son, it's a big country. It's a very big country. It's going to be a long way back. He says, so, on that way home, when you're coming home, he says, I want you to remember, no matter where you are and what kind of trouble you get in, don't call me. He said. And, I said, fine, great. I had no intention of calling you anyway, And I took the challenge he kind of threw down the glove, and I just went, sure. And it was the best thing he ever did for me. I got to be an adult pretty quick and enjoy myself and look after myself and get myself into trouble and out of trouble. So it was a wonderful time for me. And I saw the country coast to coast that year because he took me back. When I got back from Vancouver, he drove us all down to the east coast. I did it coast to coast. It was fantastic. And then I really fell in love with the place. And so I wrote this song about crossing Canada. And you start in Newfoundland, then you come up the St. Lawrence Seaway. And then you go up to the prairies and cross the prairies in a straight line, essentially. Then you get to the mountains in the west, which are beautiful and huge and massive. And there they are, this big grey mountain, this stone mountains, wonderful thing. And so, unfortunately, I wrote it all in real time, so it takes 6.5 days to sing. But I figure you have it in you. I'm pretty sure you do. But then our banjo player always plays with us, Chris Cole, said, take out all the coffee stops, man. Take out all the coffee stops, And I said, okay, I did that. It's down to 3 minutes and 3 seconds. It's incredible. But that's how it is when we're traveling. It's called Long, Long Road. And it certainly has been. And I'm trying to stay home a little more this year, although you would not know it by my schedule. But I think this year I'm home more than I'm away. Maybe it's hard to say, actually. But at any rate, it's a lovely stop on our Long, Long Road, and thanks so much for having us back. I really do appreciate it. And wherever you came from, I know some of you have done some wicked drives. I appreciate it immensely. I truly do. I just can't thank you enough for that. So here's the song. We're going to teach you this one, though. Here's the chorus part that we'd love you to sing as well. Sing with us. There we go. On the long, long road, on the long, long road, the waves of the water, they endlessly break on the long, long road. Now, if you look at that verse, the first line is the same as the second line. And the third line you don't have to worry about. We'll sing the third line. And the fourth line is the same as the first and the second verses. So this is not rocket science for sure. That's for sure. It's not even hard music. But if you do get mixed up or get lost in it, or you just weren't listening, don't worry about it. Just do what we do when we get lost in the song. We just go road, road. Just make little noises and then hit that road and we'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's been really fun seeing you all again. I wish you all the best for the next time. And that's Mark. Westbury, I'm doing with Francey, and again, thanks to Ken and Gary for having us back. Long, long road. Red sun comes rising out of the sea on the long, long road. The bones of the ocean, this land underneath on the long, long road. And then it's up to St. Lawrence to the Queen of the Lakes on the long, long road. Where the waves of the water, they endlessly break on the long, long road. On the long, long road, on the long, long road, the waves of the water, they endlessly break on the long, long road. The prairie's a straight line beginning and end on the long, long road, where the mileposts mark in the time that we spent on the long, long road. Then it's west of our mountains that braid us a stone on the long, long road, where the setting sun sinking tired to the bone on the long, long road. On the long, long road, on the long, long road, the mileposts marking the time that we spent on the long, long road. On the long, long road, on the long, long road, the setting sun sinking tired to the bone on the long, long road. Thank you very much for doing that part.
Well, I promised a good night. I think we've delivered in spades. Just before I invite David and Mark back, just to give us one for the road. Thank you first of all to the four singers, Phil and Alan. I think they're up at the back somewhere, but still. And yeah, thanks to Ken as well for continuing to get such great artists to come and play for us. It's amazing. Yeah, so for one last song for the road, Mr. David Francey and Mark Westbury.
Well, I sang you a love song I didn't write for Beth, but I wrote for two women that needed a love song badly, and I happened to be the one to write it for them. Everybody thinks it's for Beth, no doubt about that, but it's well meant anyway. And I met them the same night I met Mark Westbury. They were a 10-piece soul band with horns in this little tiny folk club, in a little stage that was like 8 feet long, you know, 10 pieces with horns. And these two women fronting the band, and leading the band that night, none other than Mark Westbury. And that night he was playing upright bass, electric guitar, and trumpet. He's not much of an achiever, that boy, really, you know. And at any rate, you know, they were great. I just loved them, and I wanted to sing with the two women that were fronting it. They were university students like Mark was. And I finally got to meet them, and I wanted to sing with them, and so we sung regularly together, and I wrote songs just to sing with them. But I found out they were very beautiful girls, and they were wonderfully talented, but their hearts were great, man. Their hearts were really good. And they were late for practice one night because they dropped into the old folks' home to sing a few songs for the old folks. Well, they were university students, and I was already old. And I was thinking, man, I'm older than Methuselah's brother here, you know, it's just wicked. And so I said, well, is that a gig? And they said, no, we just dropped into the old folks' home and we lost track of time, Dave. We played a few tunes on the piano for them, you know. And I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, man, I'm really going to appreciate people like that in a couple of years. There's no doubt about it, you know. So I said, did anyone write you a love song? And no one had. I couldn't believe it. And I said, I'll write you a love song. I said, I'll write about how we met and some of the things we've done since. She says, great. I said, great. You know, I went home and wrote the song. That was easy enough. Came back and played it for them and sang it for them. And they said, oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. And I said, no, no, thank you. They said, no, no, thank you. I said, no, no, thank you, because we're Canadian. That went on for 5 minutes. So we were just thanking everybody. And then they said, what are you going to call the song, David? I said, I'm going to call it Lucky Man, Girls. And they said, oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. And I said, no, no, thank you. And we went again. So finally somebody, you know, broke the horrible cycle of politeness and said, well, he said, why are you going to call it that, David? And I said, well, girls, that's very easy. I said, no, whoever ends up we want to use is going to be a very lucky man. And they went, oh. And I couldn't help myself. I said, mind you, if you ended up with both of you, you'd be an amazingly lucky man. And they laughed at that too. And so we still sing with them every year. That's many years ago I met them. I sing with them every year. Never miss them. You know, they were right there at the beginning. There's no reason they shouldn't be here now, you know. I usually send it out to Beth because at this point in the tour we've been gone, you know, a couple of months, I guess, and back's starting to look good, and I just want to go home, you know. And but I'm going to send it tonight to 2 lovely folk we met last year in Glenfarg. Just want to make sure I get the names right. Yes. And I really enjoyed them an awful lot, and hopefully get to say hello after. And their names are Tim and Claire, and I think that Tim is a very, very lucky man indeed, no doubt about it. But I guess they both came out well in that one, that's for sure. This song is called Lucky Man, and thanks again for having us. It's been a real pleasure. I saw you first in the smoky cafe light when I came in from the frozen winter night, and I saw a face that put the stars to shame, and I loved you forever, your name, and my heart sank, lost without a trace. Oh, and it's a lucky man that gets to kiss your face. And I've seen your shine in the summer, spring and fall, but it's winter when I love you best of all. And I've seen you in the spotlight hard and bright, and I've seen you in the shadows of the night. When I see you coming, I can feel my cold heart race. Oh, and it's a lucky man that gets to kiss your face. And I heard you singing to that empty hall, and I heard the joy that echoed off the walls, and I realized when all is said and done, that youth has never wasted on the young. And I don't believe the silence of this place. Oh, and it's a lucky man that gets to kiss your face. And I don't believe the silence of this place. Oh, and it's a lucky man that gets to kiss your face. Thanks everybody. Other questions, see you. Thanks for coming.